And the last piece of information for this lesson is how to divide complex numbers. So, as I mentioned before, we're going to be rationalizing the denominator. So our first step is multiplying by a fancy form of 1 using the conjugate. So we're going to take the conjugate, I should say, of the denominator. I should have been more specific. We want to rationalize the denominator, so we're going to use the conjugate of the denominator. So 1 plus 3i is our fancy form of 1 in this case. And then we just distribute and simplify. So in the numerator, make sure that you are distributing both terms in the first set of parentheses to both terms in the second set. So 2 times 1 plus 2 times 3i plus 5i times 1 plus 5i times 3i. In the denominator, I'm going to show this the long way on this example, and then we'll do the shortcut on the next one. We've got 1 times 1, 1 times 3i, negative 3i times 1, and negative 3i times positive 3i. So in the denominator, notice that positive 3i and negative 3i cancel. That will always happen. So the shortcut when you're multiplying conjugates is you can just multiply the first number times the first number and the last number times the last number. So simplifying in the numerator, remember I squared is negative 1, so my last term is negative 15 plus my 2, and then combining my I terms. In the denominator, my last term is positive 9 because I squared is negative 1 times negative 9 is positive 9 plus 1. And then my 2i terms cancel, which is what we want because we don't want an imaginary part in the denominator, similar to no radicals in the denominator. And then the last step is to turn it into the form a plus bi, so that there's no denominator. That's what I mean in step 3. So we use what I call in Algebra 1 is the butterfly method, and we divide both terms in the numerator by the denominator. It would look like a prettier butterfly if I had centered my 10. So we get negative 13 tenths, which can't be simplified, and 11 tenths I, which also can't be simplified. I think that I've just got one more. Oh, I've got 2 more examples. So again, multiply by the conjugate of the denominator. Fancy form of 1, so that we're not changing the value of the expression, we're just changing what it looks like. Distributing in the numerator, negative 3 times 2, negative 3 times negative 5i, negative 4i times 2, and negative 4i times negative 5i. Then in the denominator, our shortcut is we get to do 2 times 2 and negative 5i times positive 5i. Simplifying in the numerator, my last term is negative 20 plus negative 6. Combining my I terms. And then in the denominator, negative 25i squared is really positive 25 plus the 4. And then using the butterfly method to divide. Sometimes I even make the pad and the antennas just to make it look pretty. And then we get the negative 26 over 29, which doesn't simplify. And 7 over 29 doesn't simplify as well. Last one, if you feel like you have this, don't feel like you have to watch this last example. But in this case, we just have an I in the denominator. You can just multiply by I. Now you could multiply by negative I, but either way, we're going to get that imaginary part out of the denominator. Once we multiply I by I, it becomes a real number. So in the numerator, distributing my I get I minus 4i squared. In the denominator, I have I squared. So in the numerator, the negative 4i squared is really a positive form. I'm going to flip this around so I have it in standard form with my real number first and my imaginary number second. In the denominator, I squared is negative 1. So using the butterfly method to divide by negative 1, I get negative 4 minus I.